Hi, it's impromptu 1980s retro Bodge repair time. This is the Boombox from the 1980s, the classic Sharp GF7600. I've done a video on this Boombox before. If you want to see that, I'll link it in down below. Yes, they're also called Ghetto Blasters. That's what they were called here in Australia, at least in Sydney. Let us know in the comments down below whether it was Boombox or Ghetto Blaster or something else back in the 1980s where you were. But here it was Ghetto Blaster, but sort of Boombox is kind of like the de facto term now, I guess. Anyway, what makes this bad boy so popular is not its specs or its performance or anything, capability or anything else. It's because this is the one that John Cusack famously held above his head in the movie Say Anything. Completely forgettable movie. I don't even remember what it's about. I don't know. He's serenading his girlfriend with a boombox. Anyway, it was on the movie poster and everything else. So if you see somebody holding a boombox above their heads, you know they're symbolising the 1980s, and in particular, John Cusack holding up this exact unit. But the movie poster did actually have a different model, an entirely different model to this. That's not the one that was used in the movie. This is the Sharp GF7600 that was used in the movie. Anyway, I am going to a 1980s retro-themed gym thing tonight. So I've got my crop tank top, I've got my shorty shorts, I've got the fluoro headband and wristband and everything else, and yeah, I put a poll on Twitter and everyone said, yep, take the Boombox. Unfortunately, it doesn't work from the included D cells, so I'm going to have to quickly bodge something together to get this thing working. So we're going to have to open it up. We've got some crusty terminals. I'll show you that up front, but there you go. For those playing along at home who love to see the labels, there it is, the serial number, the GF7600Z, which I believe the Z is the like Australian or the Asian model or whatever. But yeah, see, it's a little bit crusty, but it does work, as you've seen in the previous video, but I don't want to power it from the ACs. I want to do old school D-cell powering. So, yeah, I think it's only this terminal, but won't know until we open it up and clean it up a bit. So, as you can see down in there, it's seen better days. So, I think that rusty terminal, the others look okay-ish from the outside because they're hidden up under there, but they look okay-ish. And I am getting voltage out one end, but it's not powering up the unit. So let's crack it open and see if we can... I can't replace the spring. No, I can't, you know, plate it or anything like that. Don't have the time or the chemicals or whatever to do that. So I'm just going to have to bodge in a plate in there, like a PCB copper plate or something, just to get this thing up and running for tonight. So it is comically long screwdriver time. Yes. It's still going, it's still going, it's still going. I'll link in the teardown video if you haven't seen it. I won't go through it again. Let's see if I can get this off. Oh, yeah, I've got all the screws out. Had to take the knob off the top and the front sliders, but we're in. Let me disconnect some cables. Oh, sorry, I think I had fixed focus on there. So let's, the speakers, they're the main... Yeah, they're the only thing to disconnect. And there you have it. The Melf fanboys go wild. Melf, Melf, Melf. And yeah, let's have a look at the terminals. As I said, tear down in the previous video. So yeah, it does actually work. So that mains transformer and the little bridge rectifier there all still works. But yeah, I want the battery terminals. Unfortunately, they're like in bed. Oh, actually, damn. If you want to get that out, they're heat staked in. They're heat staked. Bugger. I can see one of the terminals hidden away in there, but that one is fine, I believe. And these terminals here look really good. So I don't think there's an issue there. And as I said, I could read the voltage back at the other end. So it was really that one terminal. So it looks like this blue and orange wire here is the one that goes off to the battery. I mean, like, I could like just bypass it and like bodge in a lithium ion battery or something, you know, just get, or a battery, USB battery pack, and just have it output like 12 volts or whatever. But no, that's not in the spirit of it. So I do want to use the D cells, but damn, I don't want to have to take out the whole tape mechanism and everything. Oh yeah, There we go. I can access the blue. Yeah, it's hard to see, but the blue wire does bugger off. I can touch the terminal there. So maybe I can lift out the spring or something perhaps. Or I can just bodge in a temporary wire from here and put it through onto a copper plate. Like a, copper-clad PCB or something. That might be the easiest way, rather than just dick around with the existing wire. You may be wondering, how exactly is switches between the battery and mains? Well, there's 3 terminals down it. Well, it's actually got a physical switch. These 3 terminals here, it switches. This looks like the common here, and it switches between over there, which is mains input, or transformer output, or the battery over here. And you can see that on the bottom of here's the mains input here. Sorry, it's all black. And down there is that switching block. So that's what's doing the switching. So in theory, that could be at fault as well, but that terminal looks really crusty. So I've got the mains cable plugged in at the moment, so that should direct it from this one to the center. And sure enough, it does. It shorts that out there. And the other one should be open. So if I disconnect that, that should switch back to the battery. Hello? It doesn't. Bueller. There's your problem. Damn, it may not be that terminal. That terminal may still be working, and I'm going to whack in all the batteries and actually measure the voltage on there. All right, I've put in the 8 D cells, and positive, 10 volts. No, that should be 12 point something. It's not, so we do have a contact issue, but we also have a double fault. We have a twofer. We've got a twofer. Interestingly, on top here, we have a little, it's almost like that slides down to, but that would be a voltage selection thing, which we would be doing a transformer tap, because there's actually 3 pins. You can see a third one there. That's not the issue. The issue is, however that little contactor switch thing works inside there. Down there. I don't want to get all that out, and it looks like sealed as well, so I don't want to try and troubleshoot that. I can probably just bridge, well, I definitely can. I can just bridge those 2 terminals there for that switch, and Bob's your uncle. So I'm just going to actually resolder those joints there. Woo! Yes, using leaded solder. Oh, that lead-free rubbish. Woo! Oh, yeah. It's got that 1980s flux smell. And no, that is still open. So, yeah, there's something wrong with that battery switch in there. But I can bypass that. So I'm just going to solder in a Bodge wire. She'll be right. It'll still work for mains as well, but you don't want to do mains and battery at the same time. There you go. For the purposes of today's experiment, that will work just fine and dandy. Okay, so I've clipped in a power supply, and let's turn it on. Got the polarity around the right way. Yep, no wuckers. And let's turn on the output. 12 volts, there's no current draw. Hopefully you can see that current over there. So let's switch it on. There we go. Yeah, 80 milliamps. Yep, she's working. Yeah, no worries. It's not doing anything at the moment because I've got no speakers plugged in. And but yeah, trust me, that red LED there is on. Little bar graph is flickering down in the bottom there. Yeah, no worries. So about 70 milliamps quiescent current there. And because this is old school switches, of course, once you turn it off, it's off. And then you can just, you don't even have to switch it on. You can just press play. Winner. None of that quiescent current draw rubbish here. No, sirree, not in the 80s. So now I've got to replace that dodgy thing here, or not actually replace it. I'll keep it in there so it keeps the spring tension. But what I'll do is I'll just cut out a bit of copper clad board and solder a wire to it, and then I'll take that back through and just wire and just duplicate the other wire so I don't have to get in there and, you know, take out the whole mechanism and desolder that and everything else. The only problem is that this is the negative terminal, so negative terminal might work okay on a copper clad board like that, but you're probably better off just like having a dollop of solder on there like that. This is not a long-term solution, of course. This is just for tonight, so that, yeah, you can just whack that on there, and it should like squish in place and make pretty good contact. And your PCB can get corroded as well, so, you know, you have to clean that. But yeah, it's a little dollop of solder on there, so I've already happened to have 2 convenient solder points there. I did this for some soldering videos that we've done. So I'll cut out a bit of that fits in there, and I think Bob's your uncle. Big ass snips should do nicely. Please excuse the crudity of the model. Didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it. Crude, but probably effective. So there we go. I'll feed that wire through, and then that'll just sit in there, and that will temporarily replace that spring terminal. So there you have it. We have our Bodge bridge across there, shorting out those 2 pins. So why that's failed, I don't know. And I've got the negative soldered over to the negative terminal. Just a couple of wraps around the wire wrap there, just to keep it in place. And I think we're going to have a winner chicken dinner. So there you go. And that is exactly, I reckon, exactly how I would have bodged it as a teenager in the 1980s. Slide in those D cells. Yeah, that's going to go on there nicely. It did have a lot of force on it before, so it's going to have a bit more with an extra 1.6 millimeters in there, but it was common to have to do this back in the 80s. Squeeze your batteries in with those big long terminals. Oh man, that's really pesky, but it'll go in. No wuckers. There you go. No problem. Look at that. Like I bought one. 3 extras in there, and hopefully it won't spin out. I'll just test it before I put it all back together. All right, let's switch it on. Oh yeah. VU meter went up, sorry. I really need low light for that. Yep, there you go. I'll whack it back together. Jeez, I don't leave much lead length. Let me tell you. 1 speaker and 2. They add that little, I'll show you in a sec. They went to all that effort to put in that little bridge board there. All its job is to add a little connection for the speaker. Oh yeah, here we go. Yep. All right, I'm going to play. Woo! Winner! Kylie Minogue! So there you have it. There's a total bodge fix of this classic Sharp GF7600. Yeah, leave it in the comments down below if you know of what's failed in that mains flip over switch. It was supposed to do that. So I don't know. Is that a common thing? Not sure, but yeah, it plays. Woo! And I love that. I reckon that is exactly how I would have fixed this thing back in the 80s if I had that problem. I'm not sure I would have bothered taking that thing, bodge it, get it back into operation. So there you go. If you like that video, give it a big thumbs up. As always, discuss down below. Catch you next time.